And action. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Project 1.8 conversion video. In the last video we ended on a bit of a high. We managed to get the car running for the very first time. I was super pleased, super pumped that everything sort of went to plan. No issues with any engine lights or anything like that. So now that the majority of the work is done with a project, you end up in this phase where you're just kind of buttoning up little bits and pieces, having to order little bits that have gone missing or you haven't received them or something. So two things. Number one, I mentioned the exhaust. The guy had a flexi welded in it, and because of the way it was welded, the pipe doesn't sit right under the car anymore. It doesn't sit straight, it sort of goes downwards. So I'm going to have to get another one of them. And there's also a vacuum line that goes from the brake servo to the intake manifold. Didn't receive that in the kit. I think I was supposed to receive it, but I didn't get one. So I'm hoping to get hold of one of them off the guy that sent me it. And then there's just a case of ordering little bits and pieces. I want to get some new arch plastics for the front and some new wheel liners as well, because the other ones for some reason were all chewed up. I assume the guy who owned the car before probably went too low, because it looks like there's sort of burn marks in the plastic from wheels maybe. So now is a time where things start to slow down, not quite as entertaining or as sort of fast paced as things have been in the previous videos. So I've still got calipers to paint, I've still got the brakes to fit, and I've still got to buy a belt for the auxiliary side of the engine. So still quite a bit to do. Also, the first thing I'm going to do in today's video is I want to get the old exhaust off. It's still hanging on the back box. So I just want to get that out of the way so that I've got a fresh slate for a new exhaust to go in. So I'll carry on filming bits and pieces, and we will slowly get this Corsa piece back together.
I'll just show you the exhaust. You can see it's bolted up as supposed to be on there. And the flexi sits in a good place in this little dent in the oil pan. It sits there nicely. But then when you come to this bit of the pipe, you've got the oxygen sensor, and it comes around and you can see that it sort of goes down instead of straight. And if I push it up any higher, it starts to hit the subframe, you can see. And even at its highest point, it still sticks down loads. So that's never going to work with an exhaust. It needs to be dead straight. So I need to get a new part of this. That's the new flexi that was welded in. You can see the brand new welds there. It just wasn't welded straight enough, which is a shame, but it is what it is. And then I've also got the old exhaust still sitting under here. And it's just being held on right at the back by the back box, so I'm going to pull this out. This thing was pretty rigged up, and we have holes there. You can see it's like a cherry bomb type exhaust. Some threaded rod for the exhaust hangers, piece of pipe welded on, and then welded to the exhaust, which is under there. I should be able to just pull this bit out now. She goes. So here's a better look at the exhaust for the 1.8. This is the new part that he's had welded in, and this end you can sort of see that it's not quite right. There's like a big gap this side and nothing here, so I think that this should be sort of over this way a bit more, maybe just a bit straighter. And you can see it sort of kinks off to the side, so it's not great. This side's fine. It's just this side. I'll give you an angle this way as well. You can see where it's not quite right. So I have to get myself another one of these.
Okay, so Mr. Postman has just been. For those of you that fix cars and work on cars or have a project, knows that that is usually a good thing. So behind me, just here, we've got this package. I posted a picture of this on Instagram and asked you guys to guess what it could be. So I guess it's only right that I show you.
So for those of you that have guessed exhaust, you were correct. This is the old one off the 1.2. As you can see, it's pretty much a straight pipe all the way down, and it's got a little curve at the end. Whereas this one, for the 1.8, sort of goes to the side because the sump sits about here. The sump's a lot lower on the 1.8, so this has to go round it and then come back in. I think I already showed you this a couple of times, but this is them sort of both facing directly up, how they should be sitting. And as you can see, someone's welded a flexi in, but they've welded the pipe afterwards at a different angle. So you can see if they're both straight like that, that's sitting to the side when it should be sitting straight up, and then the pipe faces downwards. This part here hits on the subframe, which means it doesn't fit properly, so I'm going to put this guy on. I've got an armchair back box in my other shed that I'm going to put on the end. So we'll get this bit fitted first, and then we'll stick the back box on. So for the time being, this is the back box I'm going to put on it. It's a twin pipe Corsa back box. A little bit mucky, very used, but it'll do for now. I've just gone ahead and jacked the back of the car up and given better access to get this back box on.
So I guess that now that there is an exhaust on the car, I should actually start the car up and let it idle for sort of 5 minutes, because it's not going to be too loud now for the next door neighbours, and it'll give me a chance to see if there's any little issues that I need to figure out in the engine bay. So there we go, that's the new exhaust fitted. Whilst the car was running, I felt like I could hear it misfiring and feel it misfiring. I had my hand on the exhaust and you could feel it spluttering. And then I put my hand on the engine and you could sort of feel it misfire every sort of few seconds. So I don't know if we're going to have to diagnose that. We haven't got any engine lights, which is good. There's an airbag light because the passenger's side seat is not plugged in. And then the battery light is also on because I haven't got a belt on at the moment, so it's not charging the battery, hence the battery light. So those two warning lights, I know how to get rid of them, so that's not a problem. No engine warning light, which is a good thing. Maybe it just needs spark plugs and a coil pack, and then maybe that misfire will go away. So now that that's done, I'm going to move on to these calipers. As you can see, they've seen better days, and they were once painted red, but as you can see, most of it is flaked off and stuff. So I'm just going to give these a repaint. So I'm going to strip them down a little bit,
take the pads out, take the caliper away from the carrier, clean them up, wire brush them, and then give them a coat of paint, and then these can go back on with the brakes.
So I'm going to start off with these 2 bolts here that separate the caliper from the sort of caliper mounting bracket itself. Not 13mm, did I just say? 12mm. Goodness me, let's put these on there. They are tight. There we go. This is going to make it a lot easier to clean these up. As you can see, a load of the paint on here is all flaky and horrible. So I'm going to get as much of that off as I can with a wire brush, and then I'll degrease them, and then we will dry them and give them a coat of paint. What I am going to do while I've got these out, and to save me from damaging the rubber boot, is I'm just going to push this piston back, because I'm going to be replacing the brakes with brand new ones. So this is going to need to be pushed back regardless, so I'll just use my vise to do that. So whilst I was cleaning up these caliper mounting brackets, I noticed one thing. So this one here is normal. Got the 2 slide pins, and they've got like a protective rubber sleeve here on both of them. But on this side, which I think is the passenger side, one of them has got a rubber, but the other one has not. Unfortunately, over time what that's caused is for stuff to be getting all into this pin, and now it is seized solid. You can see the marks on it from where I've tried to break it loose with a pair of pliers. All sorts of stuff I've tried, vice grips, had it in the vice, swinging on it, but it's not budging at all. So what I'm probably going to end up doing with this is I'll give it to my dad and he'll take it to work. He's got a friend there that sort of does all sort of engineering bits and pieces, so I'll try and get him to see if he can put some heat on it or something and free that up for me, because I don't want to have to buy a new bracket, which would be slightly annoying. I'd like to be using this one. I'll just have to get a new pin or something. I'll let you know what happens with this. So we're getting to that point in the project now where I'm just sort of waiting for parts. This came in today from the postman, which is an auxiliary belt, but this is for cars that don't have AC, because as I've said multiple times, I'm not running AC on this car, so hoping that this is going to fit. I hope it's the right one. It was pretty difficult to find on eBay, so I just sort of searched around and managed to find one in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and fit this. I'm still waiting on a brake servo pipe from the guy that sent me the conversion. He said it was supposed to come in the kit, but it didn't come with this kit. So I'm waiting for him to send one of them over. And then I'm just waiting for some clips and stuff to put the front bumper back together, because I want to put it together properly. I want some like the little plastic push clips that you get. So I'm waiting for them as well. So it's a bit of a waiting process at the moment. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've posted a couple of times that I'm just waiting for bits. But I've sort of used up all the bits that I had with the conversion, so I am literally now just trying to find the little pieces that either I didn't come with it or I needed to buy separately, and then waiting for them, because everything takes sort of 3 to 5 days to come. So I find myself doing a lot of waiting for parts, but we're slowly getting there, and we haven't got much left now. Okay, so the belt's on. I'm just going to start the car up. And then I'm going to check the battery voltage just to make sure the alternator is charging alright. Like I said, with all these second-hand parts, it's best to check that everything's working, and your battery charging is quite important, so and it takes a minute just to check it. Well, that was unexpected, but that is a prime example. I was just then saying, before I fit that belt, that you have to check things to make sure they're working. The belt is on, the alternator is spinning, however we're not getting charged to the battery, so there's obviously an issue with maybe wiring, or that alternator is just dud. So now I'm going to have to see if I can figure out what's going on there, I think what I'll do is I'll probably pull the alternator off and see if all the wiring looks right, and if the wiring looks okay, I've got a spare alternator from another engine, so maybe I'll chuck that on and see if that fixes the issue. So I'm currently in my other shed. This is a shed you never get to see. It's just behind my other shed. As you can see, it's very dark and gloomy and just filled with a load of rubbish. But I have, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I had a black Vauxhall Astra Mark IV, which had the 1.8 engine in it. That actually ended up being scrapped, and so I stripped it for parts. Luckily enough, I found a spare alternator, so I'm going to chuck this one on in the hopes that this is the issue and we haven't got a wiring issue. So let's try this one out, see what happens. I'm not going to film much of it because it's really windy outside, it's really cold, and I just want to get it done. So I'm going to whip the old one off, put this one on, and then I'll come back to you with the results. Okay, so this is the old alternator. This is the one that wasn't charging the battery. As you can see, my tools are everywhere. The new alternator is in, or the second-hand one, the one off my Astra is in, belts on, everything's back together now. I've got my multimeter set up here, so I'm going to start the car, test the battery, and hopefully we've got 14 volts-ish. That's a good sign. The battery light's gone out. If you remember, the battery light was on when we last started it, so that's good. So there we go, that's a pretty good diagnosis of this alternator. I've got it here on my lap, sitting here, this is the old one. If your alternator is not charging your battery, if you stick a meter on it and it's not charging, there's a very good chance that your alternator is bad, but do check the other stuff as well. You've got wiring. I don't know if it's fused or not. I'd assume it probably is fused, but it's probably one of the big fuses. I didn't check what fuse it was. I just checked all the fuses and all the fuses were fine. So it's a shame that I've had to replace another item on this conversion kit. This is not the first thing I've had to replace. I would have thought that before pulling these conversions out of cars, the people would sort of test them to make sure everything's working right, especially to make sure the car's charging. That's quite important. But nevertheless, we've fixed that now. I was just lucky that I had one laying about from a previous project, but otherwise I would have had to spend sort of £30–40 to get another one. So that's that done. Next thing I'm going to tackle is the front of the car. I'm going to put the plastics and stuff back together. I've ordered a load of new clips for all the trim and wheel arches and stuff because all the other stuff broke when I picked it off. So gonna go ahead and do that, get the front bumper on so it actually looks a bit more like a car, and then I'm going to paint the calipers, get the calipers back on, brakes and stuff, and then we can put the wheels back on, and then it will look like a proper car. Okay, so this is the trim I'm about to put back in. Here we have the wheel arch liners. This bit goes inside of the wheel arch. These are the bits that go sort of around the wheel arch, and then I've got a bunch of new clips here and stuff, pop clips and push clips and all sorts of stuff like that to put these back in. I do at some point want to get some new ones though, because someone obviously made this car too low and it rubbed, and you can see the plastic sort of come away where the wheel was rubbing. So I will in the future be getting some new ones of these, but for now they will do. It's actually starting to look like a car now. I put the arches in, as you can see there's the new clips. So the arches are in, these arches are on. I have put the front bumper on, but it's not bolted up or anything, because obviously to get the headlights out on this car you need to take the bumper off. So to get the headlights in, the bumper needs to be off. So I haven't bolted it up, I just wanted to see what it looked like. But as you can see, she's starting to look like a car again. I apologise for the wind as well. It's super windy today, stupid wind. So if it's coming through on the camera, I do apologise. But there she is, looking good. So I'm currently editing this video right now, and for some reason I forgot to do an outro for this video, so this is going to be the outro. So in this video we got the exhaust done, we put a new belt on the car, we diagnosed an alternator fault, and replaced it, so that's now working. And we also got the front end looking a bit more like a car. In the next video we're going to be painting the brake calipers, putting the brakes back together, sorting out the headlights and the wiring on the headlights, and a few other little bits and pieces. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, it helps me out a lot. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with the Corsa content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.